With cyber attacks being up 156% in the second quarter of 2023 compared to the first 3 months of the year, it's clear that these attacks are growing at an alarming rate. In order to speak more on his company's solution to securing your network's database, I'd like to welcome Francis Bellido, CEO of Quantum eMotion. My good sir, welcome.
Hello, hi everybody. Very happy to be with you.
I'm very happy to have you with us as well. Well, Francis, I'd like to start off by first asking a very important question on your quantum random numbers generator. As it being the ultimate weapon against cybercriminality, as your company claims it to be, why do you believe that is so?
Oh, it's not only me who believes it. In fact, a lot of specialists will tell you probably the same thing. It's the idea behind that if you want to create a system, that an encryption system was at the core actually of all cybersecurity, encryption. It's the best way to do it is actually to be unpredictable to, actually the hackers. Being unpredictable means that in theory, at least, it's unhackable because there is no pattern, So the idea behind is that what you extract a real actually source of randomness. Unfortunately, you cannot do it. It's actually in our physical world because everything is deterministic. Sometimes appears actually almost chaotic, but it's always a little bit deterministic. In fact, if you wanted to rely on pure unpredictability, what's called physically randomness, or entropy, that's the way you measure it in physics, you have to rely on quantum physics. So that's the reason why when we call our QRNG, and other QRNGs are actually the ultimate weapon against the attempt to basically hack encryption.
Yeah, entropy. That's a very important word here for your company, and the fact that this is cloud computing as well. Can you go in a little bit more about how this is the first market is going to be in cloud computing, what that means?
In fact, when we created last year, we created our first device, based on IP. We have actually 4 patents now with our technology because we're using one famous, mechanism of physics, quantum physics. It's called the tunneling electron effect. Okay. So, it's probably here, what you see here in my hands is the most powerful, basically QRNG that is potentially in the market right now, okay, based on that. And in fact, what we decided to do, instead of trying to, sell this device, at that stage, in fact, we are developing iterations like a microchip that, we are eventually, that could be a device that could be actually, really mainstream, and being available to almost every equipment, every device that is connected to the internet. In between, we said that we can, instead of trying to sell the grape, we could sell the wine. So basically here, what you have is we creating a huge amount of entropy with that, entropy. So what we have developed was actually entropy as a service. Basically, we are taking the product of this device and actually spreading it over their cloud and targeting, in fact, our partners that need actually to create a very strong backbone of security for their own applications in the cloud. So we are basically making these functional iCloud application. It's a huge market. Everybody today, all the companies, using iCloud for all kinds of obvious reasons, in terms of productivity, trying to overcome a geographical barrier. So what we saw, in fact, a lot of these applications they don't have the level of security that they should. And in particularly, that's the reason why we're starting to explore in healthcare, because this is an area where actually telemedicine, it's actually moving towards a lot of these cloud-based applications, because you want actually more and more patients, particularly the ones suffering from chronic disease, to stay home. And they can be actually monitored, even treated actually from distance. Right now, the platforms exist to do that. However, we saw when we did an audit on some of these platforms, the level of security was actually really, really worrisome. So what we've done, and this is what I think we started now commercialization for us. We did an agreement with a company here in Quebec, it's close to us, that has actually developed one of the most performing of these platforms called digital therapeutic platforms. And actually we are making them almost, bulletproof from a perspective of hacking.
Yeah, and I'd like to focus on that for a moment as well, because you did recently announce that commercial partnership with Greybox Solutions to implement your technology in their digital therapeutics platform like you just spoke on. What specifically does this entail, and how will it lead to your company's first revenues?
Well, the fact that, so we created these platforms now are starting to be deployed. It will probably take, time to deploy, but there is one of these platforms, can take, for example, the first application would be mental disease, mental problems, that people are, so the depression, sometimes even psychosis, so they'll be treated and monitored from home. And as you can imagine, when you're home and people discover that actually during the COVID, cyber criminality increased by 400%, wow. Because people were working from home, but most of them, they didn't have the systems, the connection, security actually to do it that in a secure way. So, and it's exactly the same situation now. So they needed to have actually that backbone of security to be able to actually that the platform works, according to the goals and the objectives. And in the case of, I would say, healthcare, what was many attractive for us, now talking from a business point of view, it's that it's not a choice to the customer, the patient here, okay? It's not a choice for him, because it's an obligation for actually the producer or the manufacturer of the platform. If somebody is hacking you as your health records and everything, the responsibility will come from the company. So it's not a choice. You don't want to be in a business where people have to choose. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, maybe connected to the human nature, people they always believe that issues of cyber or security is always the neighbor, not you.
I'd like to also ask about other avenues. You briefly went into it earlier talking about chips. Are there other paths to near-term revenue outside the medical industry that your team will be pursuing?
Yes, in fact, we are still a small company, even if we have a lot of ambition, but you can imagine cybersecurity and communication applies to almost every vertical, every domain of the economy. We had to choose, that's what we call a low-hanging fruit here, because we cannot cover everything. But there are military application, finance application, you name it. Everybody's concerned. Supply chain applications. Everybody's concerned by security and the communication. So I would say potentially, I think the market for us, is huge. But we have to be again realistic. So what I told you, a few minutes ago was, we try to focus right now on our low-hanging fruit. I think the cloud-based solution for us, it's a fantastic opportunity, because doesn't imply to develop, or try to manufacture at that stage, because that costs, as you can imagine, a lot of investment, and it's it's too early for us. So we can actually try to generate free cash flow, by developing technologies, and platforms for the cloud.
Well, I always like to end off an interview asking a very important question. What should investors be excited about and looking forward to as we enter the last quarter of 2023?
Well, they should be excited, because, as you pointed out, cybersecurity, it's a huge market already and growing very fast. So that means that there are still a lot of unmet need in cybersecurity, and particularly when you consider, in fact, communication and encryption. It's still, I would say, it's still a market is finding actually the ultimate actually weapon. So we are coming with the nascent technology. This is still new, in fact. So the market needs to be adopted for the ones who actually have a sort of a vision and want it to be in the first rank, maybe they should be interested to our technology. I think that also we are based on quantum technology, means this is a big revolution coming in a few years. It's not if, it's when. And I think the last also is, maybe reason why is we were one of the very few companies in quantum communication that is public. So it's not always an advantage, to be public, as you can imagine, but it's also, I think, an avenue for the shareholders or investors that want to jump in the wagon and be ready, actually, because it will become a huge, market, and huge reward for the ones who probably have dared to jump in the wagon earlier.
Yeah, well said. And I do agree as well. The industry is going to continue to rise year over year for a long time. Well, Francis, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you speaking with us and with your investors as well. For anyone looking for more information, you can see the website down below that you can go to. I appreciate it once again for your time, Francis.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye. Take care.